Hi, Springs Living family. Fee here. I'm back to share some information with you on how we're doing against this fight against COVID-19. It's very important for us to look at what we've done and look at the results and make sure that the correct story is getting out there. And nothing tells this story about the last few months better than this chart right here. This chart shows the mortality rate at the Springs Living, meaning people that have moved out due to deaths, from 2017 to 2020, and as you can see, at no time have we been safer than right now. Right now, we're 25% safer than we've been in the past. And that's because of a lot of great efforts by a lot of great people working in your communities and your participation in that yourself. It also is a result of the amount of testing and the resources that we've used to fight COVID-19. This graph will show you the testing that the Springs Living has done against national averages. So for an independent living, you can see, an assisted living, you can see, and memory care, you can see that we've tested a higher percentage of our population at the Springs Living than the national average in senior housing out there. 40% among our employees and staff, and that's a unique test. Some of you, unfortunately, have been tested more than once. When we look at our data and we look at the evidence and the facts of this, we really see COVID impacting two groups that are part of the Springs Living. One, our memory care community, and second, our staff. Our memory care has had the highest positive rate as a percentage of infection of any of our communities, and our staff is a second. But there's good news about that, because it's even though it's been the highest among the Springs Living, it's still well below national average for other senior housing and in the general public. And it's important to note that independent living has had nobody that's contracted COVID-19 in our independent living communities. And assisted living is very good too. A very low rate, less than 0.5% of all the assisted living residents have tested positive for COVID. That's spectacular. This slide here demonstrates exactly how much safer we are at the Springs Living than the general population. So for example, the Springs Living right now, for all of our residents who have been tested, only 1.74% of you have tested positive for COVID. That's compared with nationally, according to the National Investment Conference, NIC.org's recent information that shows 5.2% in one study of senior living independent assisted memory care residents have tested positive. That's still really low compared to the national average, which according to the CDC right now is around 9%. On the West Coast, it's 11% of people tested have tested positive. We're significantly safer than the general outside according to the data. That's pretty interesting. Now, we have all this data. If you're interested in studying it, for some of you, if you want to look at the independent, assisted, and the memory care infection rates and the impacts of that, we're going to post this on our website and make it available. Your executive directors in each of the communities should have this information if you'd like to talk about it and go through it. But the bottom line is that the Springs Living, we're doing a great job at fighting COVID. We understand that we've got a long way to go and we're not out of this yet. Some of the key takeaways that I want you to leave you with here is number one, our data shows that 2020 has been the safest year for all Springs Living residents. Number two, the Springs Living is using testing at a significantly higher than average pace. Number three, no independent living residents have contracted COVID-19 in our communities. And assisted living residents have had no COVID-19 deaths and an infection rate that's under 0.5%. Employees have had no COVID-19 deaths and an infection rate of less than 2%. Of the Springs Living residents and employees, only 1.74% have tested positive. It's pretty impressive compared to 5.2% and 9% nationally. The bottom line is that our data is showing that you're safer in our communities. We know we have a lot of work to do. We know that we have to continually open up. We have to continually creating environments and ways for you to connect with your family and your friends and open up all the reasons why we want to get out of bed in the morning. I want you to know you have our commitment that we're going to continue to work towards that and pursue that and do it in the very safest possible way. We know how important that is, and we're here for you. Thank you for listening to this update. I'll be talking to you soon. Be well.